Well, it is time now to go inside out with our NBA insider Ian Begley, who joins us from the Garden. Ian, another tough loss for the Knicks. They've lost 8 of their last 10. Is this one more about missing Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, or is there something a little bit more to it?
Well, I think you could say that, Niki, because you talked about the offensive numbers in the fourth quarter. Knicks missing open looks in the fourth quarter, but also not being as organized as they probably would be with Jalen Brunson. That's what happens when you don't have your point guard. But in a big picture sense, 8 of 10 matters. Mike Brown, I asked him after the game his level of concern. He said, sure, I'm concerned, but not to the level where we need to overhaul everything. The interesting thing to me is, before this skid, Knicks, we're talking to teams about ancillary moves, bringing in support, maybe a bench piece, but not a major move. If things continue this way, though, you have to wonder if New York changes its approach ahead of this deadline, which is coming up in early February.
Yeah, especially if they have more injuries coming up. So speaking of Hart and Brunson, do you have an injury update? When can we hopefully see those two back?
Brunson remains day-to-day. He's got that sprained ankle from the Sacramento loss. Knicks 0-2 without him, and if you include that Sacramento game, it hasn't been pretty. Josh Hart popped up on the injury report a few hours before this game. Mike Brown saying that it was precautionary. Josh Hart dealing with some soreness in his ankle, and so based on that, you would expect Hart to have a good shot at playing Monday. Brunson, less clear. That ankle has been an issue for him kind of on and off this season. So Knicks, they may face another game here without Brunson, but it seems like you get Josh Hart back Monday if things continue to go apace.
Yeah, and they need guys to continue to step up, especially when Jalen Brunson is not playing. And Karl-Anthony Towns has been taking a lot of criticism as of late. How much do you think that's impacting him on the court?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but he does not look like the player that the Knicks saw often last season. It seems like he's still trying to find his way in Mike Brown's offense, in Mike Brown's defense. And Mike Brown talked tonight about how at halftime the coaches talked to Karl Towns about getting the ball out of his hands when he has it in the post and he's double teamed. And Brown said, he tried a couple times, but it ended up as turnovers, and we just didn't find the right shooter at the right time. So Mike Brown certainly giving you an honest assessment of Karl-Anthony Towns over these past few games. I would think that at some point he reverts back to what you've seen from his whole career in terms of how efficient he's been from beyond the arc. But right now it just looks like he's not adjusted to where Mike Brown wants him to be, and it's a continuous process here as the Knicks move forward.
All right, time now for some Knickerbocker banter. Marc Malusis joins us to talk Knicks. Mark, been a bit of a bad stretch here. They lose 3 in a row. They're missing Brunson and missing Hart, but how do they not allow things to snowball? How do they get back on track here?
Well, I think you got to lean into what Mike Brown is as a head coach, and that is his offense. I mean, that's really why he's here, right? Maximize possessions, be up-tempo. He talked about that when he got hired as Knicks head coach, kind of the antithesis of what Tom Thibodeau was here, which was all defense. Offense was a little second-minded. And listen, you can look at it. They've not really been whole. I mean, Josh Hart missed an extended period of time. He was out once again tonight. There was no Jalen Brunson on the court tonight. So I think when you look at this Knicks team, even when they were winning games and even when they won the NBA Cup, in the last 17 games since winning the NBA Cup, they're just 7-10, right? So even when you looked at all that, you still looked at this team during the course of the regular season and you said, well, they've got to be better defensively when come April and come the NBA playoffs, which I still think is true. I think it's a little bit of a valley that we've hit here, Niki. I don't think it's all that to be upset about. I still think it's a really talented team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the East.
Yeah, they got to get healthy. You talked about Mike Brown. Let's talk a little bit more about him. When he got here and they were playing really well, everyone was singing his praises. Now maybe getting a little bit rocky. What is your confidence level that he still is the guy that can get this team to where Tibbs couldn't?
Well, listen, my confidence level, first off, I was a Tibbs supporter, right? So I didn't necessarily think that the Knicks needed to change and make a change at head coach. But I'm not running the Knicks, right? I'm not James Dolan, obviously. I'm not Leon Rose. So the Knicks decided to make that change. And I understand why they decided to do it. And obviously messaging can start to wear thin, especially when you have a core group of guys here. And they wanted to go at it in a different route, right? To try and maximize the potential of this entire roster. I think it's going to be defined by what they do come playoff time, right? So the confidence level in Brown, here's where it comes down to. I understand he can coach offense. I understand that he can go out there in the modern game. You want to go out there, shoot it at least 43s a game, all these things. And still, in the end, you need to get stops, right? There needs to be a defensive mindset. I like the fact that he held Karl-Anthony Towns accountable the other day for a lack of hustle. You need to start to see some of those things because you got to get buy-in and effort. And really, defense is all about effort. Jeff Van Gundy said that years ago when he was the Knicks head coach.